Hello everybody, my name is Davo Deth. This is the Grim Healer Artificery in Arcanium, and today I'm going to be demonstrating for you the Banishing and Invoking Rituals of the Inverse Pentagram. Why inverted, you ask? Isn't that evil? Isn't that against the rules? Well, the importance in inversion lies in its potential. A ball at the top of the hill is full of potential energy. Then it gets transformed into kinetic energy and it rolls down. So while the star is resting on its point, it can easily roll towards either the left or towards the right. There are hundreds of thousands of wizards worldwide who've been drawing upright stars, but a battery needs both poles to operate. So let this inverted pentagram ritual be the South Pole that grounds these centuries-long circuits. Credit where credit is due, this is an adaptation of the Lesser Banishing Ritual of the Pentagram, the Lesser Invoking Ritual of the Pentagram, and the Kabbalistic Cross as written by the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. While performing and researching these rituals, I became more and more uncomfortable with the use of Hebrew, archangels, and declaring God as the power, and I'm in a more draconic, self-deification style practice that believes that the spirit of magic lives within every individual, and I intend to wake it up. After performing the LBRP and the LIRP as written for an entire year, every single day, I slowly began to feel what works so that I can trade it out for better things that suit my style and preference. And that's what this is. This is the culmination of all of that research and practice put into a single PDF. And if you want to get your copy of this, it's available for very affordable price over at my Ko-Fi, linked in the description. And also if you sign up for the Patreon, you will get access to this right away, as well as all of the sigils that I'm going to design every single month going forward. The pentagrammic associations of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn that is being used here in America is Eurocentric. The reason they have water in the West is because water is in the west of them. So I've gone ahead and researched the geographical bodies of different elements near me. And so the associations that I'm using are based on what's near me. So in the north of me is the only earth. Here in Florida, the forest and everything exists above me in the north. The largest body of water is to the east, the Atlantic Ocean. So that's where the water is, that's where the earth is. Below us, the south, that's where it gets hotter. The more south you go, the hotter it gets. That's where fire lives. And then to my west is coastline, and the only element left is air, which does make a lot of sense for a windy coastline that spawns storms. So this is why I have these specific elemental associations. When you get the PDF for this ritual, it comes with a ritual reference sheet so that you can establish what point of the pentagram you want what element on. You can remind yourself how to invoke as you're performing the ritual. You can write down the incantation in whatever language you prefer, and you can assign your elemental guardians as well as your personal names and epithets. I don't use Hebrew because I am not from a Hebrew world. It doesn't make any sense for me to appropriate another culture's language. I don't use archangels because I am a night shifter. So I work with dragons. That is what I consider to be a better protector of man. And instead of just inventing dragons from nothing, it was easier to find dragons that already exist in fiction. Because if you come from a chaos magic perspective, you will know that the storybook universe is not different than the mythological universe. These two things both exist in the astral plane, and there's plenty of wisdom in the fiction universe as well as there is in the celestial divine universe. So the dragons that I call upon as my guardians are famous Dungeons & Dragons guardians that provenance goes back to the 1980s. They are for air, Zundaraz-Alim, for earth, Voragamanthar, for fire, Imvayanarro, and for water, Arve Achures. If you don't want to do all the heavy lifting of customization that I just showed you, if that's not attractive to you, you can just use the exact same words and phrases that the Hermetic Order uses for their Lesser Banishing Ritual of the Pentagram and Lesser Invoking Ritual of the Pentagram. I do suggest that if you're in a self-deification style practice, you don't say thine is, but instead you say mine is, and that's exactly how I have it written in the book. So you can see right here, intone mine is. This is all written in English, and you could just recite it in English, but there is some magical potency to using a non-native language to yourself. I suggest that you don't appropriate another culture's language, which is exactly why I've chosen to use the Skyrim dragon language. My soul is a dragon, born of Tiamat, and so to speak in a Draconic language would mean the most to my highest self. The only Draconic languages that actually exist that are spoken and used are video game Draconic languages. There is the D&D Iocaric, and there is the Skyrim Dovazul, which is what I have learned and am using for my personal incantations. So the first thing I needed to change was the Kabbalistic cross, because as a friend said, we do not cross our heart. Crossing your heart is hoping to die. So we draw spirals in the sky. So we're not even referring to this as a cross anymore. This is the Merkabic Maelstrom, and instead of pulling it above you and below you, the star pillar of light and the black cube pillar of dark, we're gonna pull them from either side of us, just like the High Priestess, the white pillar and the black pillar. We're going to get into a Baphometic pose, and this finger pointing to the sky is going to imagine a six-pointed star originating from the heavens, driving down to my fingers, and an extrusion of a star-shaped pillar similar to if it came out of a Play-Doh factory. The next thing we're going to imagine is pointing down at the ground, a black cube sprouting from the earth and rising up to meet our finger in a cube-shaped pillar of darkness. Then we're going to pull these two forces next to each other and then begin to rotate them. Then we're going to force them into each other, which is what causes the pillars to come down and spiral into a point in front of you. If you know anything about the faster than light travel that we've studied, it creates a cone that has a point of potential in front of you that you fall towards. That's exactly what we're building in the astral right now. Hi, Editing Davo here. I forgot to mention that after you crush the spirals together in the Merkabic Maelstrom, the next gesture is to draw the upward pointing pyramid of the Merkaba, then the downward pointing pyramid of the Merkaba. Those spirals go into the Merkaba. You take the downward pointing receptive symbol and you put it over your chest, and you imagine a hole opening in your chest. Then you allow the spiral-filled Merkaba to flow through this portal into the center part of yourself. Even though it is still in front of you in that cone projecting you forward, you now contain it within yourself. Then you place your hands together in a prayer form from your head down to your navel. You're closing that portal back up. And when you're doing it with the wands, you're doing it in that pharaoh hand position. And then you allow your finger to press the like button and the subscribe button. And we will then say the ritual. Mine is the kingdom and the glory forever. Amen. Important to note that you can perform this ritual with wands, which is what I prefer to do. I use a black wand for the left and a white wand for the right to draw in the different stars, which I'm inverted on video right now, so you'll have to bear with me like this. The only difference is I make the triangle with the wands themselves, and then instead of prayer hands, I cross my hands like a pharaoh and then close it off. But it is important to know the gestures if you're ever in a place where you can't have access to your wands. So I recommend learning this ritual with the gestures first, and then switching over to wands. To draw these pentagrams around me, I'm going to be using two different gestures. To draw the circle and all the basic stuff, we'll be using the magic gesture. The magic drawing gesture is these planetary associations as defined by Foolish Fish in his planetary association video that I've linked down below in the description. The banishing gesture will be this with my non-dominant hand, and it's based on these planetary associations. The invoking gesture will be done with my dominant hand, and it looks like this, and it is based on these planetary associations. As I'm drawing these stars, I'm imagining a bright blue line dragging right behind my fingers as though my fingers are a pen of magic that draws blue energy. After we draw each banishing star, we will then assume the sign of the devil. We will take our horns, turn them along our eyes, and drive them straight forward into the center of that pentagram, which is what's going to cause it to burst into flames. Then we will step back and we will point to the center of the circle with magic drawing gesture and silence that specific energy. So let's get right into it. First, we begin by facing the east, and we start with the Merkabah Maelstrom. Dilos, Faljunar, Artfin Mulag, Artfin Murro, Maferak, Boxen. Then, with magic drawing gesture, we point to begin the circle, but we do not draw the eastern star first because we are doing a banishing ritual, which is backwards from the invoking ritual. So we will turn to the north first. This is where we draw our first star, which for me is associated with the earth. I will switch to banishing gesture and draw the star counterclockwise to send the energy back to where it came from. Then I will assume Devil's Sign, drive my fingers down my eyesight, activate the pentagram, step back, point at the center, and shush the energy. And as we drag the circle over to the west, you'll be able to see what I'm doing more clearly. The west for me is the air, which is going to be up here. I will switch to banishing gesture, hit the air, and go counterclockwise to send it back to where it came from. I will enter the Devil's Sign, drive my fingers down my vision, and inflame the pentagram. Then I will step back, point to the center of it, and silence the energy. Continue the circle to the south, which I will switch to banishing gesture as I move to the point that I associate with fire, down at the bottom. I like to keep it under control. Now I'm going to drive it counterclockwise back to where it came from. I will Devil's Sign down my eyes to activate the pentagram and point and silence that energy. Then we will drag it to the east where we draw our final star, which for me is the water. Starts over here, counterclockwise back to where you came from. Devil's Sign down the eyes, light the pentagram, silence the energy. One final Merkabah Maelstrom to seal and balance everything. Dilos, Faljunar, Artfin Mulag, Artfin Murro, Maferak, Oxen. And that is the complete banishing ritual of the inverse pentagram. Okay, home stretch. Look, if you're tired right now, I want you to know this is what it means to be a wizard. All this, I'm using my mind, my eyes, my body, my everything. This is wizardry. It's in depth, it's intense, it's a little martial. So if you're already tired, I want you to know wizardry is not for you. But if you want to really move some fucking energy in this world, then let's continue with the invoking. So to begin the invoking gesture, we will be facing towards the east. And this time we will be drawing our first star in the east. We start with Merkabah Maelstrom, just the same. If you have just finished the banishing ritual, you've just done a Merkabah Maelstrom, you don't need two, you only need one. So we'll get right into the invoking ritual. Facing the east, begin with the element you associate with the east, which for me is the water, because the ocean is out there. And I'm going to begin with my dominant hand in drawing gesture to start the circle. I'm going to switch to invoking gesture and move to the point that I associate with the water. I'm now going to draw a clockwise circle to welcome that watery energy to me. As I put this key in the center of this star, I'm going to imagine my awareness moving east as far as I can possibly picture. And from that point, I'm going to visualize a dragon that is the embodiment of all water energy, rising from that ocean, flying all the way to me, landing in front of me, and being my elemental guardian for the water energy for the rest of my day. And I will say their name. Arveachures. Then I'll switch back to magic drawing gesture to go clockwise and continue the circle to the south. This is where I'll move to the fire point, switch to invoking gesture, and bring in our next dragon by drawing clockwise stars and saying his name. Imaenaro. Drawing gesture to the north. We're going up for the air, invoking gesture, clockwise star, and our best friend of air, Zunmarezalim. Finally, drawing gesture, drag that circle back down to the north. Over here, we're going to be bringing in the earth dragon. So real quick, I'll draw my clockwise star, put my key in that star, and then say, Orag Hamantar. Then we will take the drawing gesture and complete the circle to the east. That is 4 flaming pentagrams around you with 4 draconic elemental energies guarding those to make sure it's the best, most beneficial expression of those energies for you, your magic, and your life. And now we're going to do another thing. We're going to draw above us and below us. Above us, we're going to be drawing this right here, this septagram, because above us is the cosmic mother herself, Tiamat. There it is. And then I like to say, Tiamat, you do not need to do that. Just poke the star, it's active. Now below us, we're gonna draw something else. We're gonna draw a crossroads. You ever heard about people doing magic at the crossroads? Well, the thing is, if you draw one below you on the astral plane, you don't have to go to the crossroads. You're always at the crossroads. So consider me the devil waiting for you. Anyway, so we'll point down at the ground and we're gonna draw an X, Y, Z axis, which also puts us in the 3rd dimension. And it's a 6-way crossroads at your feet, which I associate with Hecate, who you might know as the goddess of the crossroads. Now we have drawn 4 pentagrams around us, a septagram above us, and a 6-way crossroads below us. We are inside of a cosmic egg, completely sealed. The last thing we do is balance ourselves within this egg with one final Markovic maelstrom. Dilos Valjunar Artfin Mulag Artfin Morro Maferak Voxen. And if you would like to read more about this, there is so much more information on each one of these pages that describes the importance and the reason why I did this. There's an afterword in the back that gives you advice. There's a ritual reference in the front so you can make this ritual your own. And please reach out to me in the comments section. Ask me how I can help you to make this ritual your own, because I believe that if everybody in this world has a really solid banishing and invoking ritual, that will lead them to peace, and that peace will spread. And we'll fix a lot of the problems in this earth by having people operating from a balanced perspective. Thank you so much for watching. This has been the Grim Healer channel. Please join our Patreon if you want to get some more information. Thank you again for watching, and happy spellcasting.